coming back to join us again. By the mercy of the Lord, we have done First Samuel up to chapter 14. So we're going to start from First Samuel chapter 15 now. Thank you. First Samuel chapter 15. Samuel also said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the word of the Lord. Thus said the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalekite did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both men and women, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Tilium, 200,000 footmen, and then 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, Go, depart, get you down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. No, ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel when thou came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites, and Saul smote the Amalekites from Avila unto the comers to shore, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag the king of Amalekites alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of sword. And but Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the faintlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, that would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly. They came then came to the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It is present me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he is turned back from following me, and hath not performed my commandment. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and he gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, Blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, What manner then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. And Samuel said unto Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord has said to me this night. And he said unto me, Say on. And Samuel said, When thou wast little in thy own eyes, when thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel, and the Lord anointed thee king over Israel, and the Lord sent thee on a journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, and didst fly upon the spoil, and did evil in the sight of the Lord. And Samuel said unto Samuel, and Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone to the way which the Lord sent me, and I have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and also utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Had the Lord hath the Lord as great delight in burnt of had the Lord has a great delight in burnt offering and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and the stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voices. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, and that I may worship the Lord. And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee, for thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord hath rejected thee from being king over Israel. And as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold of the skirt of his mantle, and it rent. And Samuel said unto him, The Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from this day, and hath given it unto a neighbor of thine that is better than you. And also the strength of Israel will not lie nor repent, for he is not a man that he should repent. Then he said, I have sinned, yet honor me one now, I pray thee, before the elders of the people and before Israel, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord God. So Samuel turned again after Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Then said Samuel, Bring ye hither to me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came unto him delicately. And Agag said, Surely the bitterness of death is past. And Samuel said, As the sword hath made women childless, so shall the mother that mother the childless among women. And Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. And then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel came no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord repented that he had made Saul king over Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 16. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Now how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? For thine own, and fill thy own with oil, and go. I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, How can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, Take an ephah with thee, and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. And thou shalt anoint him, shall anoint unto me him whom I am named unto thee. And Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, Comest thou peaceably? And he said, Peaceably I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and came them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, Surely the Lord's anointed is before me. But the Lord said unto Saul, Look not unto his countenance, nor unto the height of the stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as men see. For man knoweth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. And Jesse called Abinadab, and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, Neither hath the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and they said, Neither hath the Lord chosen this. Again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, The Lord hath not chosen this. And Samuel said unto Jesse, I hear all thy children. And he said, There remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, Send and fetch him, for we will not sit down until he come here. And he said, and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withered, of a beautiful countenance, and godly to look, and the Lord said, Arise, anoint him, for for is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. And Saul's servant said unto him, Behold, now an evil spirit from God troubled thee. Let out, Lord, now command thy servant which are before thee to seek out a man who is cunning player of a nap. And it shall come to pass, when the Spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shall be well. And Saul said unto the servant, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. They answered one of the servants and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them to David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he had found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, and David took a nap and played with his hand, so Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shoknoth, and belonged to Judah, and pitched between Shoknoth and Ezekiah of Ephesidami. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had an element of brass upon his head, and the and he has and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass, and he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And out of his spears was like a weaver's beam, and his spear head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing shield went before him, and he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out to set your battle in this array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servant of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then we will be your servant. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then all ye be our servant, and served us. And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And the man went among men, and the man went among men for an old army in the days of Saul. And 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of the 3 sons that went to battle were Eliab, Abinadab, and the third is Shammah. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. And Jesus said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of his spoiled corn, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren, and carried these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their thousands, and look how the brethren fare, and take their place. Now Saul and they, all the men of Israel, were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep and with a keeper, and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the rent as the souls were going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David let his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren, and he talked with them. Behold, there came up the champion of the Philistines of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies and the Philistines, and spake according to the same word. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were so afraid. And the men of Israel said, How ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy the Israel is he come up, and it shall be that the men who killed him, the king will enrich him, and with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spoke to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killed this Philistine, and taking away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answer him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killed him. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest thou down here? And with him hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thy heart. For thou art come down, and thou mightest see the battle. And David said, What have I done now? Is there nothing? Or and spake at the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and they sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight him with his Philistine. And Saul said to and Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against these Philistines to fight him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went after him, and smote him, and out of the, delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him his bread, by his beard, and smote him and slew him. That servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised bastard shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living one. David said, Moreover, the Lord hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear. He will deliver me out of this land, out of his hand, of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also, he armed him with a coat of mail. And David gathered his sword and upon his armor, and he essayed to go, but he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with this, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him, and he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag, and he had, even in the nickel, and he slings with his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. And the Philistines came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I dog that thou comest to me with Steve? And the Philistine cursed David by his God. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and a spear and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of our hosts, the God of armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee, and take thy head off thee, and I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistine this day unto the fowls of the air, and unto the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all the assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is not Lord's, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hasted and ran towards him, the army to meet Philistine. And David put his hand in his back and took 10 a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead. And the stone sunk into his forehead, and it fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and he smote the Philistine, and he slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath. Therefore and slew him, and cut off his head herewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until thou come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistine fell down by the way to Sharam, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistine, and they spoiled their tents. And David took to the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but to put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth and the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as the soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Enquire thou, whose son this stripling is. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him up before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. 1 Samuel 18. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was slain with son of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. And Jonathan and David make a covenant, because he loved him and his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David, and and his garment, even to the sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle. And David went out, and David went out Wudu Soa. Saul sent him, and wherever Saul sent him, believing himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servant. And it came to pass, as they called, then David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women who came of city of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with timbrels, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000. And Saul were very wroth and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed but 1,000. And be what can they have more than the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast his javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and he was departed from Saul. And therefore Saul removed him from him, and therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Whereas when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But in all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, behold, my elder daughter, Merab, will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battle. For Saul said, let not my hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistine be upon him. And David said unto Saul, who am I, and what is my life of my father's family in Israel, that I should be a son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that he was given unto Adriel the Meolatite to wife. And Maachah, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, and she may be a snare to him, and what the hand of the Philistine may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt thou shalt these days be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded the servant, saying, come in with David secretly, and say, behold, the king are delighted in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore we be the king's son-in-law. And Saul servants spake those words in the ears of David. And David said, seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? And the servant of Saul told him, saying, on this manner spake David. And Saul said, Thus shall, thus shall ye say to David, the king desired not a dowry, but 100 foreskin of the Philistine, to be avenged of the king's enemy. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistine. And then his servant told David this was, he pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistine 200 men. And David brought their foreskin, and they gave them in full tale of the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal his daughter to wife. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal Saul's daughter loved him. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David. And Saul became David's enemy continually. And the princes of the Philistines went forth. And it came to pass, after they went, that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by. 1 Samuel chapter 19. Then Saul spake to Jonathan his son, and to all his servants, that they should kill David. And Jonathan Saul's son delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul my father seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take it to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place, and eat thyself. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where thou art, and I will come in with my father of thee, and what I see, and I will tell thee. And Jonathan spake good of David unto Saul his father, and said unto him, let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he has not sinned against thee, and because his words have been so the word very good. For he did put his life in his hand and slew the Philistine, and the Lord wrought a great salvation for all Israel. Saw it, and this is the judge. Wherefore thou sin against innocent blood to slay David without a cause. And Saul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan, and Saul sware, As the Lord liveth, he shall not be slain. And Jonathan called David, and Jonathan showed him all those things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence, and in times past. And there was war again. And then David went out and fought with the Philistines and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. And the evil spirit of the Lord and the evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand. And David played with his hand. And Saul sought to smite David even unto the wall with his javelin. But he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. Saul also sent messenger unto David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If thou save not thy life tonight, not to tomorrow, thou shalt be slain. So Michal led David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took an image that laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster, and covered one with a cloth. And when Saul's messenger came to David, she said, He is sick. And Saul sent the messenger again to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may slay him. And when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed with a pillow of goats hair from his bolster. And Saul said unto Michal, Why hast thou deceived me so, and sent away my enemy, and he is escaped? And Michal answered Saul, He said unto me, Let me go. Why should I kill thee? So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel to Ramah, and told him all that Saul has done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in now it. And he was told Saul, saying, Behold, David is at now it in Ramah. And Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as appointed over him, the Spirit of God was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. Then went he also to Ramah, and came to the great well, that is Siku, and he asked and said, Where are Samuel and David? And the one said, Behold, they be at Naot at Ramah. And they went there to Naot in Ramah. And the Spirit of the Lord was upon him also. And he went on and prophesied until he came to Naot in Ramah. And he stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day, and all that night. Wherefore they saw his son also among the prophets. 1 Samuel chapter 20. And David fled from now and in Ramah, and came and said, Behold, before Jonathan, what have I done? That what is my iniquity? And that is and what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? And he said unto him, God forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing either great or small, but he will show it to me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. And David swear moreover, and said, Thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in thy eyes. And he said, Let let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death. And then said Jonathan to David, Whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will even do it for thee. And David said unto Jonathan, Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king at meat. But let me go that I may hide myself in the field unto the third day as even. If the father at all miss me, then say, David earnestly asked leave of me, that he might run to Bethlehem, his city. But there is a yearly sacrifice there for all thy family. If he says thus, it is well, thy servant shall have peace. But if he be very wroth, then be sure that evil is determined by him. Therefore, thou shalt deal kindly with the servant, for thou hast brought my servant into a covenant of the Lord with thee. No, notwithstanding, if there be in me iniquity, slay them, that slay me thyself, for why wouldest thou bring me to thy father? And Jonathan said, Far be it from thee, for I knew certainly that evil were determined by my father to come upon thee. Then will not I tell thee. Then said David to Jonathan, What shall who shall tell me? Or what if thy father answered thee roughly? And Jonathan said unto David, Come, let us all go unto the field. And they went out, both of them, into the field. And Jonathan said unto David, O Lord God of Israel, when I have sounded my father about tomorrow, any time, or the third day, and behold, if there be good towards David, and I then send not unto thee, and show it thee, the Lord do so, and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do evil, then I will show it thee, and send thee away, and thou mayest go in peace. And the Lord be with thee, as he hath been with my father. And thou shalt not only while yet I live shew me the kindness of the Lord, that I die not. But also thou shalt not cut off thy kindness from my house forever. No, not when the Lord hath cut off the enemies of David, every one from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made covenant with the house of David, saying, Let the Lord even require it at the hand of the David's enemies. And Jonathan saw David to swear again because he loved him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. Then Jonathan said to David, Tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. And when thou hast stayed 3 days, and thou shalt go down quickly, then come to the place where thou hide thyself, when the business was in hand, and shall remain by the stone Israel, and I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as thou I shot at a mark. And behold, I will send a lad, saying, Go find out the arrows. If I express, if I expressly say unto the lad, Behold, the arrows are of this side of thee. Take them, then come out, for there is peace to thee, and no hurt shall, as the Lord liveth. But if I say unto those young men, Behold, the arrows are beyond thee, go thy way, for the Lord has sent thee away. And as a touching the matter, and thou and I have spoken of, behold, the Lord be between thee and me forever. And so David hid himself in the field. And when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. And the king sat upon his seat as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought something had befallen him, and he is not clean. Surely he is not clean. And it came to pass in the morrow, which was the second day of the month, and David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, where cometh not thy son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today? And Jonathan said unto Saul, David earnestly asked leave of him to go to Bethlehem, and he said, let me go, I pray thee, for our family had a sacrifice in the city, and my brother he had commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in the eyes, let me get away, I pray thee, and see my brethren. Therefore he loved he cometh out into the king's table. And Saul anger was kindled against Jonathan. And he said unto him, Thy son of the perverse rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thy own confusion, and or know the confusion of thy mother's nakedness. For as long as the son of Jesse lived upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Therefore, now send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely die. And Jonathan answered Saul his father and said unto him, wherefore shall he be slain? What hath he done? And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew it was determined of his father to slay David. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did eat no meat the second day of the month, for he was grieved of David because his father had done him shame. And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out unto the field at the time appointed by David, and the little lad with, with him. And he said unto his lad, run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad and said, is not the arrow beyond thee? And Jonathan cried after the lad, make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan lad had gathered up the arrows and came to his master. But the lad knew not anything. Only Jonathan and David knew the matter. And Jonathan gave his artillery unto his lad, and said unto him, go, carry them to the city. And as soon as the lad was gone, David arose out of a place towards the south, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept one with another, until David exceeded. And Jonathan said to David, go in peace, for as much as we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord be between me and thee, and between my seed and thy seed forever. And he arose and parted, and Jonathan went into the city. Yeah, we must take